Hello everybody and welcome to the ESI Digest, where we run through the biggest esports business related news stories of the week. I am Tom Daniels, the sub-editor of Esports Insider, and this episode of the ESI Digest is in partnership with RocketReel, powered by Reely.ai. So we're really glad to have them on board again. This episode of the Digest is very investment heavy. We had a lot of investment news coming throughout the week, and actually I've only picked 4 of them. There are actually a lot more if you want to check out on ESI's website. So we're going to be talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjær and Solbakken becoming ULTI Agency owners, which is an esports agency. OverActive Media announcing a $40 million investment, and a sports club actually being involved in that as well. Epic Games raising $1 billion in investments as well, and we're going to be talking about the esports implications of that. We're also going to be talking about Enthusiast Gaming announcing its intention to list shares on NASDAQ, and then finally, the University of Kentucky, Gen.G, and ISA have joined forces to launch a student exchange program in South Korea. So there's a lot of news to get into, so let's get on with it. First up, Norwegian esports company ULTI Agency has announced that Ole Gunnar Solskjær, who is the manager of Manchester United, a Premier League football club, and Solbakken, who is a sports agent, also in the football scene as well, have signed an agreement to become owners of the organisation. According to the release, both Solskjær and Solbakken will acquire 12.5% stakes in the company each. So it's basically 25% of the company, which has been announced that it has gone. And it'll be through Solskjaer's company, which is Grip Management AS, and Solbakken's company, which is Sur Solutions AS. Now, financial details regarding this investment have not been revealed, which is very interesting because we're used to kind of seeing investment deals where it's like, here's the figure, but we're not going to release the stake. So it's nice to actually see an announcement where it's like, here's the stake, but we're not going to give you the figure, so that's interesting to know. Now, ULTI Agency has been operating, I believe, for just over like half a year, with basically the agency managing a lot of esports talents in the CSGO scene. The funding will be kind of used by Solbakken and Solskjær to kind of help with their expansion plans. I believe that is in Asia and South America as well. It'll be interesting to kind of see how Solskjær and Solbakken kind of integrate themselves with ULTI Agency as well. But this is a big deal for the agency, and likely, especially with it being like a talent agency as well, likely that this will help potentially boost their profile, at least in Europe. Our next story sees OverActive Media, which is the parent company of teams like Mad Lions, Toronto Ultra, Toronto Defiant, announcing the second close of its private placement, with the firm receiving over $40 million in funding. As a result of the investment, NHL's Montreal Canadiens has joined OverActive Media's ownership group alongside Arizona Coyotes' Phil Kessel and Washington Capitals' Carl Hagelin. I hopefully got those names right. Again, like the previous story, it'd be really interesting to see how much of a say the Montreal Canadiens alongside the 2 NHL players will have in the operations of the company, or will they be kind of hands-off. Unlike the previous story, while the figure has been announced, the amount in which Montreal Canadiens have got a stake in the esports organization has not been revealed, alongside again the stake from the 2 NHL players as well. It's certainly an interesting time for OverActive Media. Obviously, they've come off the back of Mad Lions winning the LEC, the success of Toronto Ultra as well. Less said, unfortunately, about the Toronto Defiant, their Overwatch League franchise. But then they've also got the esports venue, which they're planning to get done, I believe, in 2025. More and more partnerships seem to be coming through. They also partnered with, I think, an apparel brand like H4X. I believe that's what they're called. They've partnered with them as well. So I want to see kind of what happens with this investment, how this investment is spent, and kind of, again, how much of a say will these new owners have in running OverActive Media as well. Now, whilst this story isn't exactly esports related, I feel like it is such a huge story in the games industry that it had to be talked about. And there are some potential esports implications that we can chat about as well once I've kind of explained the deal. And that is that American games publisher Epic Games, mainly known, as you would know, for Fortnite, has announced the closing of its $1 billion funding round, which is around £727 million. Now, $200 million of that has been invested by Sony, with other investors including Appaloosa, Bailey Griffith, Park West, KKR, Alliance Bernstein, Altimeter, Franklin Templeton, and Luxor Capital, just to name a few. Now, Tim Sweeney, the CEO and founder of Epic Games, has said that the investment will help accelerate their work around building connected social experiences in Fortnite, Rocket League, and Fall Guys, alongside kind of empowering game developers and creators. Now, this is where I think that while this could be applied to a lot of different things in terms of how Fortnite have specifically been doing their integrations with the likes of Travis Scott and, having these musical artists kind of integrate with Fortnite itself. It could also have a massive impact on the esports industry in the sense that if they are wanting to connect brands together, using esports as well is a good way of connecting these brands. So are we going to see more esports partnerships alongside the overarching game partnerships? Because that's kind of what seems to be happening. They're going to be doing this metaverse is what they're kind of calling it, which is, advancing technology, entertainment, social connected online services all together, which is crossover events between popular games and their developers. So it's really interesting to kind of see how this funding is going to be used. Obviously, Sony, a massive company in itself, investing $200 million of that out of the $1 billion. I do think that this is going to hopefully help the esports industry as well and help Epic Games with its kind of esports prospects. Specifically for me, Fortnite and Rocket League. Our penultimate story of the digest and our final investment story is the fact that North American esports organization Enthusiast Gaming has announced its intention to list shares on NASDAQ as the company aims to expand its shareholder base and increase its overall development. In order to list these shares on the US exchange, the organization has filed a registration statement on Form 40F with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, Form 40F does need to be declared effective by SEC as it's a requirement to list common shares on NASDAQ. As we already know, the chances of this are probably likely to happen. Enthusiast Gaming is already on the Toronto Stock Exchange, as well as on a mid-tier equity market. I think it's OTCQB. So they've kind of already been involved as being a listed company and listing common shares already. So you would expect this one to be passed. I think it's actually really good when you see certain organizations test kind of the exchanges and the share market, because I feel like while it can be risky for some, if you've got an established base, which Enthusiast Gaming, in my opinion, has. If you don't know, they own Luminosity Gaming, Overwatch League franchise, Vancouver Titans, Call of Duty League, Seattle Surge, among others. So I feel like they do have a base to kind of have that reputation to go onto the exchange, go onto NASDAQ, and the experience by going onto previous exchanges in the past to kind of gain more of a shareholder base, which is their intent. Overall, I'm really looking forward to how Enthusiast Gaming does on this US exchange compared to the likes of the Toronto Stock Exchange. I think it's a smart decision because I think if you can increase your revenue and income investment opportunities, that's always going to be good. And the fact that Enthusiast Gaming is quite a well-known organization in the US, I can't imagine it backfiring too much, but I guess that's the magic of the exchange, is that sometimes it can, but it'd be really interesting to see not immediately, but just down the line, how much of an investment are they going to get from this? Our final story of the digest sees the University of Kentucky joining forces with esports organization Gen.G and Scholar Association International Studies Abroad to launch an international esports exchange program in Seoul, South Korea. Now, starting in May, the program will offer students a 4-week stay at either Hanyang University or Korea University, and I think that this is such a amazing initiative, which I'm kind of seeing like an exchange program specifically designed for esports. Now, according to the release, the students will have the opportunity to participate in customized esports activities specifically designed by Gen.G themselves, and it's to essentially provide networking opportunities with esports professionals or professionals around that scene. Overall, I do think that this is a huge step for collegiate and grassroots and development in esports, especially in the US, because offering kind of esports orientated studies in what is one of the most developed countries in terms of esports education will surely be beneficial to those participating. And for those who know, like University of Kentucky and Gen.G, this isn't just like a thrown together partnership. They've been partnering since, I think, October 2019. These two have kind of partnered together, so this feels like it's not just we're just going to throw this together and do it. It definitely seems planned, it definitely seems coordinated, and I'm really looking forward to see like if we're going to see more kind of initiatives like this. I'd love personally for there to be exchange programs like this in the UK. There might be, but I don't think there's only been this prominent in terms of partnering with what is a huge esports organization in Gen.G. And that is it for this week's ESI Digest. Like I said, there was a lot of investment news which had come through, but if you are interested in other types of news or you're interested in hearing more about the stories which I've talked about, then head over to Esports Insider's website. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Once again, I'd like to thank RocketReel, powered by Reely.ai, for sponsoring this episode. If you want to contact me as well, I am at the Tom Daniels on Twitter. But until then, I'll see you next week.